Abandoned galactic starship ignored by all. Human mechanic turns it into a superweapon. Alex Mercer had always been drawn to the quiet places of the galaxy, the sectors where no one cared to look, where stars burned alone, and planets had no names. Most humans avoided these regions, calling them dead zones. Aliens rarely came here, and interstellar corporations never bothered. But Alex didn't mind. There was freedom in the void and opportunity. Sometimes, hidden in the forgotten corners of space, there were treasures the galaxy had already written off. He steered his small freighter, the Wanderer, through the drifting debris of an ancient asteroid belt. Pieces of old mining rigs and ruined satellites floated silently, illuminated only by the dim light of a dying sun. Alex's ship hummed steadily, its engines old but reliable, patched together with parts scavenged from hundreds of trips like this. His freighter was nothing fancy, just a human craft built to last. But Alex trusted it more than he trusted any galactic system or alien technology. Scanning the area, his sensors flickered over something enormous. A massive shape floated in the distance, barely moving. At first he thought it was a giant asteroid, but its straight edges and sharp angles didn't match natural rock. He zoomed in. It was a starship. Not small, not like any freighter. This was a warship, or maybe even more. Its hull was scarred, dented, and covered in the black soot of space. Some parts seemed melted, others ripped open as if by a battle long forgotten. But despite the decay, it was intact, floating silently in the emptiness. Alex's heart raced. The galaxy had ignored this ship for decades, maybe centuries. Alien civilizations had passed it by, calling it worthless. Governments had forgotten it. Traders avoided the sector. Only he, a human mechanic with a love for the impossible, had found it. Looks like someone left their toys behind, Alex muttered, switching on his external lights. The beams illuminated the hull. Strange markings ran along its sides, symbols he didn't recognize. The ship seemed enormous, bigger than any vessel he had worked on before. From the outside it looked dead, but Alex had learned long ago that appearances were deceiving. Docking carefully at the ship's docking bay, he inspected the entrance. The airlock panel flickered weakly, responding to his touch. Alex's fingers flew across the controls. He was used to alien tech by now. Humans often had to adapt quickly, using whatever scraps and knowledge they could get. Alien civilizations built with precision and complexity, but human ingenuity thrived where others hesitated. The airlock hissed open, groaning as the seals cracked. Alex stepped inside. The interior was dark, coated in dust and long-forgotten residue. The smell of old machinery, burned circuits, and metal filled the small space. His flashlight beam cut through the darkness. "Whoa," he whispered. "This is massive." The corridor stretched endlessly. Broken panels hung from the walls. Wires snaked across the floor. Every step Alex took echoed through the abandoned halls. He moved carefully, checking systems, scanning for power sources, and mapping the ship's layout. His curiosity burned brighter than caution. Humans had a habit of exploring what others avoided. Aliens often relied on brute strength or advanced sensors, but Alex relied on his mind and his hands. He had fixed ships thought to be beyond repair. He had patched hulls, rewired cores, and even hacked alien AI systems just to keep a ship alive. To him, every broken machine was a puzzle, waiting to be solved. As he moved deeper, he noticed panels flickering faintly. Old power. Not enough to run the ship fully, but enough for minimal lighting. His scanner picked up energy readings in the central hull. Perhaps a reactor, still intact. That would be the heart of the ship. If he could reach it, maybe he could wake it.
"Let's see what secrets you're hiding," Alex said, smiling.
Turning a corner, he stepped into what looked like the command bridge. It was enormous, circular, with shattered control panels and shattered holographic displays. He ran his hand across one console. Dust rose into the air, glittering in the dim light. Symbols and letters he didn't understand flashed weakly. He frowned. Alien languages were complicated, but humans had a knack for figuring things out when it mattered. Then he noticed a small blinking light near the main console. It pulsed faintly, a heartbeat in the dark. He knelt down and examined it. With some careful manipulation, he opened the panel. Inside, wires and circuits were strange, but some connections were obvious to him. A little human improvisation, a few careful twists and patches, and
The console hummed.
lights flickered across the bridge, holographic maps projected into the air. Alex gasped. The ship wasn't dead. Not fully. Systems were dormant, waiting for power, waiting for someone to bring it back. He leaned closer to the central console. Logs appeared in alien code. At first he couldn't read them, but patterns emerged. The ship had weapons, massive weapons, capable of destroying planets, redirecting asteroids, even disabling entire fleets at once. The galaxy had ignored this starship because no one believed it still worked. But Alex now realized it was more than just alive. It was a weapon waiting for a hand skilled enough to awaken it. Humans. He muttered. We always get there first. He explored further, making careful notes. Broken turrets, missile bays, energy conduits, all fixable with enough time and ingenuity. And that was exactly what he had. Patience, intelligence, and hands that could turn junk into marvels. But then came the first real shock. As he connected one of the power nodes to the ship's core, a hidden system activated. A low hum filled the bridge. Panels lit up. A voice, deep and mechanical, echoed through the corridors. Not threatening, observational. Unauthorized presence detected. Identity unknown. Security protocols engaged. Alex froze. He hadn't expected this. The ship still had defenses. The voice continued. Threat level, minimal. Identity classification, human. Recommendation, monitor. Alex couldn't help but laugh. The galaxy had ignored this ship, but it was watching him now, and judging by its tone, it seemed intrigued. Humans had that effect sometimes. We were small, unpredictable, and annoyingly clever. He spent hours walking the corridors, mapping systems, checking for damages, and testing what still worked. Every panel he repaired, every node he activated, made the ship awaken more. Lights danced across the walls, engines purred faintly, and life support systems hummed with renewed energy. By the time he returned to the bridge, the ship was almost alive. The console displayed star charts, weapon arrays, and energy readings far beyond what humans had ever built. It was staggering. Even Alex felt the weight of what he had found. This is something else, he whispered. He thought about what it could mean. If the galaxy knew a human was aboard a weapon like this, they would come for it. Governments, mercenaries, alien empires, none of them would ignore it. And yet that was still hours, maybe days, away. For now he had the ship. He had the chance to understand it, to learn its secrets, and maybe, just maybe, turn it into something greater. As he set up temporary controls, he noticed something buried in the databanks. Schematics of the superweapon. Its full capabilities were hidden, but hints were clear. Gravitational manipulation, asteroid redirection, fleet disruption. Weapons designed not just to destroy, but to control entire battlefields with precision. The galaxy had abandoned it because it feared what it could do. And now, Alex had the key. He smiled. A human smile, nervous, excited, and dangerous. This is going to be fun, he said. Outside, the dead stars continued to burn. The galaxy still ignored this sector. But inside the derelict starship, a human mechanic was breathing life into something no one else thought possible. And soon, the galaxy would remember why humans should never be underestimated. Alex Mercer stared at the starship's bridge, eyes wide with both awe and calculation. The sheer scale of the vessel was staggering. Even the smallest corridor seemed large enough to hold an entire freighter inside. Lights flickered faintly as systems hummed to life, the ship awakening from centuries of slumber. To anyone else, it would have been a dead relic floating in space. To Alex, it was a playground. a challenge waiting for a human mind and hands willing to take risks. He moved carefully to the nearest console, fingers dancing over unfamiliar symbols and controls. The alien language made no sense at first glance, but patterns emerged. Some controls were universal: power grids, engine nodes, life support. Humans were adaptable. Alex had learned that wherever alien technology grew too complex, improvisation could bridge the gap. "I've seen worse," he muttered to himself, plugging in a universal interface module he had built. The device crackled, flickered, and then synced with the ship's core systems. The lights on the bridge steadied, the hum deepened, and holographic maps glowed with faint blue energy. Alex let out a low whistle. "This ship, it's more alive than I thought," he said. He spent the next few hours walking through the vessel, cataloging damages, repairing broken conduits, patching ruptured panels. Every step revealed new marvels: a gravity control chamber capable of bending local space-time, energy cannons hidden beneath layers of reinforced plating, and shield generators that seemed beyond current galactic technology. The ship had been built to fight wars that humans couldn't even imagine. But technology alone wasn't enough. Many of the systems were alien, designed for species that thought differently, acted differently, and built for instincts Alex didn't share. That was a problem, but a solvable one. Humans had a way of adapting, of thinking sideways, of using ingenuity to bridge gaps. He reached the engine room. The main core loomed like a dark sun, silent, but pulsing faintly with dormant power. Alex circled it, taking measurements with a handheld scanner. Its energy output was enormous, but the systems were fragmented, lacking cohesion. "This is perfect," he muttered, grinning. He got to work immediately, using scavenged components from his freighter and bits of alien tech scattered around the ship. Wiring, conduits, and control matrices were rewired, repaired, and occasionally jury-rigged in ways even alien engineers might have considered dangerous. Sparks flew. Holographic interfaces flickered. The core's hum grew louder, a sound that vibrated through the floors and walls. Hours became days as Alex worked tirelessly. Meals were brief, sleep shorter, but progress was undeniable. Engines roared faintly. Shields flickered. Weapon arrays responded to input commands. Every repair increased the ship's potential exponentially. He marveled at the technology, but also realized one thing: no one else in the galaxy could have done this. Only a human could. One evening, as he was connecting a new set of interface nodes, he paused and surveyed the main weapons array. Hidden beneath layers of plating was a device that the ship itself seemed reluctant to show. The panel opened with a hiss when he touched it. Inside, alien energy conduits pulsed faintly. Alex's scanner picked up the readings. The array could manipulate gravitational fields on a massive scale. It could shift asteroids, create artificial black holes, and disable entire enemy fleets without firing a single shot. The galaxy had written this ship off, ignoring its existence. But here he was, a human mechanic, bringing it back to life. "You didn't see this coming," he whispered with a grin. The first real test was simple. Alex wanted to see if the engines responded. Carefully, he engaged the core's auxiliary systems, feeding small amounts of power to the propulsion matrix. The ship trembled under its own mass. The floor vibrated. Sparks ran across control panels, and then, with a low groan that sounded like metal stretching across centuries, the engines roared. Alex staggered back, eyes wide. The ship moved slightly, almost like a living creature responding to his touch. He laughed, adrenaline surging through him. "Alive," he breathed. "You're alive." It wasn't just alive. It was eager. The ship responded to his improvisation, adapting to the human patterns of control he had imposed. In a way, Alex realized, the ship trusted him, or at least it recognized his skill. Humans were small, fragile, and unpredictable, but the ship could sense potential. He decided it was time for a real test. Not combat, not weapons, just movement. Carefully, Alex navigated the ship through the asteroid belt. The vessel moved with surprising grace, engines humming, shields flickering over debris that would have crushed lesser ships. He dodged floating metal, adjusting thrusters and feeling the ship respond under his hands. The test was successful. The vessel moved like a predator in the void, massive but precise. He allowed himself a moment of pride. Only humans could take what was abandoned, broken, and alien and turn it into something this alive. But progress always attracts attention. As Alex returned to the bridge, he noticed strange readings on his scanner. Small drones, long dead, or so he assumed, were reactivating in nearby orbit. He frowned. Alien sensors, likely automated defense systems from a distant empire, were detecting him. "They finally noticed me," he said calmly. The drones approached, their small frames designed to disable intruders, not destroy massive warships. Alex smirked. Humans had a way of thinking fast in situations others froze. He didn't even think twice. He fed additional power to the ship's gravity arrays. The drones shuddered mid-flight. Their orbits destabilized. One by one, they were pulled into minor gravitational anomalies Alex created. They twisted, spun, and eventually exploded quietly against the vacuum of space. Alex wiped sweat from his brow. "Efficiency," he said. "No wasted shots, no noise, just results." He realized then that this was the essence of human skill: ingenuity, speed, adaptation. Alien civilizations built weapons for wars that fit their culture. Humans? Humans could improvise, adapt, and turn anything, even an abandoned relic, into something unstoppable. That night, Alex worked late into the cycle. He activated auxiliary weapon arrays, tested shielding against extreme asteroid impacts, and began mapping the full range of the ship's capabilities. It was exhausting, but he felt more alive than ever. As he explored deeper into the ship, he stumbled upon the superweapon's control chamber, hidden behind layers of reinforcement. Ancient locks resisted at first. Alex smiled, pulling out a toolkit he had designed for just such impossible situations. Alien security locks were complex, but human determination was more complex. Minutes passed. Sweat dripped from his forehead, and then, with a satisfying click, the locks disengaged. The chamber opened. Inside lay the heart of the ship's superweapon, a massive orb of energy containment, wires and conduits stretching like veins across the floor and ceiling. It hummed faintly, dormant but brimming with potential. Alex approached it cautiously. "Not just power," he whispered. "Control. Total control." He spent hours studying the chamber, taking notes, testing minor systems. The ship responded instantly to his adjustments. It was as if it had been waiting for him. By the time he finished, the vessel was partially operational, engines fully functional, shields partially restored, weapon arrays online in test mode. Even the superweapon, dormant but responding, acknowledged his presence. Alex took a step back and looked around the bridge. The galaxy had abandoned this ship. Everyone had ignored it. But humans never ignored opportunity. He grinned, leaning on the console. "Tomorrow," he said, "we fly." The ship's hum seemed to agree. Outside, the void stretched endlessly, silent and dark. But inside, a human had awakened a giant. A machine designed to be feared, ignored, and forgotten. And now it was alive. The galaxy still slept, unaware that something was stirring. But Alex knew. The first test flight, the first full activation, would change everything. And when that moment came, no one alien, empire, or corporation would be able to ignore humanity again. Alex Mercer tightened his grip on the control console as the massive starship thrummed beneath him. The first test flight was about to begin. After days of repairs, rewiring, and improvising, the vessel's engines were fully operational. Shields responded instantly. Weapon arrays, though still in calibration, were active. And the superweapon, the ancient core that had slept for centuries, was humming faintly, alive in a way that made Alex's heart race. "All right, old friend," he whispered to the ship. Time to see what you can really do. He engaged the propulsion system. Slowly, the starship lifted from the asteroid belt. Its massive hull glinted against the dim light of distant stars. The ship moved smoothly, almost gracefully, in spite of its immense size. Every movement was controlled. Every system responded to Alex's touch. It was more than a machine now. It was a partner. The first real test was a simple orbit around the dead star. Alex guided the ship carefully, checking gravitational stability and fuel efficiency. The hum of the engines filled the bridge, blending with the subtle pulse of the superweapon. Then, a blip appeared on the long-range scanner. Small, fast-moving, and precise. An alien patrol vessel sent by one of the nearby empires to monitor the sector. They had detected the reactivation of the starship. Alex's eyes narrowed. Looks like we have company. The aliens did not know what they were approaching. To them, the massive vessel drifting in the void should have been harmless. It had been abandoned for decades. But humans were unpredictable, and Alex was about to prove it. He initiated a minor gravitational pulse. A field of distorted space flared around the starship, subtle enough to avoid detection by weaker sensors, but strong enough to send the alien patrol ship spinning off course. The small vessel struggled to stabilize itself. Alex allowed a smirk. "You shouldn't have come here," he muttered. The aliens attempted a conventional attack, launching plasma cannons in a straight trajectory. Alex anticipated the move. With a flick of his wrist, he rerouted power to the ship's shield matrix, creating a flexible barrier that absorbed the plasma without strain. Then, using the gravity manipulators, he redirected an asteroid from the nearby belt. The massive rock spun through space like a guided missile, forcing the alien patrol to break formation to avoid collision. They were smart, but humans were faster. Alex felt a thrill that was both familiar and dangerous. "Every year I've laid out the Book of Dives. Ivory windows." Every instinct he had honed over years of salvaging ships in forgotten sectors came alive. Humans weren't just survivors. Humans were adapters. In the galaxy, where civilizations relied on brute force and protocol, adaptability was a weapon. He broadcast a short, encrypted message using a human algorithm that the aliens couldn't immediately decode. "You see what you ignored. You ignored humans at your peril." The alien ship spun in confusion, unable to recalibrate its sensors. Within minutes it retreated, a tiny figure fleeing the void. Alex allowed himself a laugh, but it was brief. This was only the beginning. He spent the next hours testing more systems. Weapon arrays fired in controlled bursts, not to destroy, but to simulate combat scenarios. Gravity fields shifted asteroids, creating moving barricades. Energy readings fluctuated as he adjusted power flow between engines, shields, and weapons, discovering combinations that even the original designers might not have predicted. Alex marveled at the possibilities. The superweapon wasn't just powerful, it was smart, and humans could exploit it in ways no alien civilization had considered. But news traveled fast, even in the void. Sensors picked up transmissions from distant empires, alerting fleets to unusual activity. Alien warlords who had ignored this sector suddenly realized a human was piloting a massive derelict warship that had been considered dead for centuries. By the next orbital cycle, more ships appeared. Reconnaissance drones, small frigates, and a single cruiser scanning the starship with aggressive intent. Alex didn't panic. He had prepared for this. Humans thrived under pressure. The first cruiser approached cautiously, weapons charged, hoping to intimidate. Alex waited until it was within range. Then he activated a minor gravitational anomaly, bending space in a small corridor ahead of the cruiser. Its sensors went haywire. The ship drifted uncontrollably, caught between artificial gravity currents Alex had created. The cruiser tried to fire. Lasers lanced toward him, but Alex had already rerouted the energy shields to form a dynamic barrier. The beams hit, fizzled, and redirected safely into the void. The cruiser lost cohesion, drifting helplessly as Alex calmly observed. He allowed the cruiser to retreat. Humans didn't need to destroy everything. Humans needed to survive and send a message. "Message delivered," Alex said, leaning back. and they'll remember it as night, or the closest approximation to night in deep space, fell. Alex continued exploration within the starship. Hidden rooms revealed themselves, storage for alien technologies, weapons blueprints, and control nodes that had never been fully activated. Each discovery added to his understanding of the vessel and increased his confidence. But the human mind never rested. Alex realized that the galaxy's assumption that humans were weak, small, and irrelevant was dangerous. Aliens underestimated humans constantly. And when underestimated, humans became unstoppable. He began designing enhancements, blending human intuition with alien engineering. He repurposed power conduits to increase shield efficiency. He recalibrated engines for silent operation. He experimented with energy arrays, discovering that the superweapon could create localized gravity wells capable of disabling multiple enemy ships without firing a single shot.
Hours blurred into cycles.
The ship responded to his modifications instantly, almost as if it recognized the mind guiding it. Alex felt a strange connection to the vessel, not just as a pilot, but as a creator, a thinker, a human who had breathed life into something the galaxy had written off. Then, a transmission arrived. Unlike previous approaches, this one was direct. A representative of a neighboring empire detected through long-range sensors hailed the starship. "Human! Identify yourself and stand down!" the voice commanded. "You are in restricted space. Surrender immediately or be destroyed."
Alex smiled.
"Stand down. You're not ready for humans," he murmured.
He responded using a human-coded signal, sending an untraceable pulse that confused the enemy communication system. Then he initiated a small, controlled test of the superweapon's capabilities. A gravitational pulse distorted the space near their fleet, forcing frigates and cruisers to break formation. Sensors went haywire. Engines strained under the artificial gravity. The enemy scrambled to respond but failed. This wasn't destruction, it was a warning. A demonstration of human creativity and unpredictability. By now, whispers had reached neighboring systems. Reports spread. A human mechanic had reactivated a derelict warship, and it was more powerful than any known fleet. Civilizations that had ignored humanity were forced to reconsider. Alex knew the galaxy was watching. They would send fleets, spies, even diplomats. But for now, he had the edge. Human ingenuity had turned an abandoned relic into a machine that could outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast civilizations that relied on predictable strategies. And yet, he remained cautious. He had one advantage humans always possessed: unpredictability. Aliens planned in rigid sequences. Humans adapted in real time. One human pilot with creativity and courage could change the balance of power. And that human, Alex Mercer, was ready. As he piloted the ship through a complex maneuver around an asteroid field, testing evasive protocols and weapon readiness, Alex couldn't help but feel exhilarated. Every system responding perfectly, every enemy reaction anticipated, and every moment proving that humans were capable of far more than the galaxy believed. "This is just the beginning," he said, voice firm. "Let them watch. Let them learn. Humans are not weak. Humans are not predictable. And we are not to be ignored." By the end of the orbital cycle, the first human-engineered flight of the derelict superweapon was complete. The galaxy had noticed. Aliens had underestimated humans. And the starship, once abandoned, ignored, and forgotten, was alive, dangerous, and under the command of a single human who refused to be overlooked. Alex leaned back in his chair, exhausted, but triumphant. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the hull. The galaxy was vast, full of enemies, allies, and civilizations that had long ignored humanity. But now, humanity had a voice, a presence, and through ingenuity, courage, and creativity, Alex had made sure that voice would be heard. Outside, the void remained silent. But inside the starship, a human had awakened a force the galaxy had forgotten, and the message was clear: underestimate humanity at your own risk. The void was no longer silent. Alien fleets converged from all directions, massive warships cutting through the darkness like predators sensing fresh prey. They had learned of the derelict Starship, a vessel thought dead for centuries, now alive under the control of a single human. Alex Mercer stood on the bridge, eyes scanning every readout, hands poised over the controls. The magnitude of what he had awakened weighed on him, but it did not intimidate him. Humans had always thrived in impossible situations. Underestimation was their greatest advantage. "They're coming," he said, voice calm, steady. "Let's show them why humans aren't to be ignored." He activated the ship's advanced sensor network. Alien formations stretched for thousands of kilometers, fleets from 3 separate empires, each believing they could overwhelm a human pilot. The sheer arrogance of it made him smirk. Humans were small, adaptable, and dangerous, precisely because no one expected their moves. Alex began planning. Not just attacks, but traps, diversions, and calculations no alien fleet could predict. He rerouted power to the gravity arrays, then to the shields, then to weapon systems in cycles designed to confuse enemy targeting. Small drones approached, instantaneously disabled by microgravity pulses. Frigates tried to flank him, but were pulled into carefully calculated orbital disruptions. "This isn't war," he whispered to himself. "It's chess, and I always play differently." The first wave of cruisers approached, firing volleys of plasma and ion beams. Alex responded with a combination of defensive maneuvers and gravitational distortions. Each attack from the aliens was deflected, redirected, or neutralized without damaging the enemy. It was a show of control, not brute force. Humans excelled at thinking in layers, improvising and exploiting weaknesses that rigid empires overlooked. Then he turned the ship's superweapon on not to destroy, but to dominate the battlefield. A massive gravitational pulse erupted from the starship's core, bending the trajectory of asteroids and debris in the area.
Enemy ships were thrown off course, engines straining to maintain stability.
Weapons misfired. Chaos rippled through the fleets. Alex allowed himself a grin. The aliens had technology, numbers, and power, but humans had imagination and unpredictability. He began a daring maneuver, weaving the starship through the asteroid field, using gravitational anomalies to create moving barricades. Enemy ships tried to follow, but miscalculations caused collisions, forcing some to retreat. Others surrendered, confused and impressed by a single human, controlling a weapon they couldn't fully understand.
"This is only the beginning," Alex said. "You think you've fought humans before?"
"You haven't." He activated a secondary pulse targeting the cruiser formations, attempting to regroup. Waves of gravity distorted their sensor grids and navigation systems. Ships spun helplessly, unable to maintain formation. It wasn't destruction. It was precision control. The humans were teaching the galaxy a lesson. Power isn't just about weapons. It's about strategy, intelligence, and ingenuity. The alien leaders, realizing the human had not only survived but dominated, attempted to negotiate. Holographic messages reached the bridge, frantic and urgent. Alex paused, considering. Diplomacy had its place. The galaxy respected strength and cunning more than mere threats. He sent a signal back, simple, clear, and terrifying in its brevity. "Underestimate humans no longer. The galaxy can either adapt or be left behind." The effect was immediate. Fleets hesitated, formations faltered, and whispers of human brilliance spread across communications channels. Civilizations that had ignored humanity for centuries now faced the undeniable fact: humans were a force unlike any other. Alex wasn't done. He knew that survival wasn't enough. Humans thrived on opportunity. He began combining systems, pushing the starship's capabilities to the maximum. Engines responded to split-second recalibrations. Shields adjusted dynamically to multiple attack vectors. Gravity manipulators created controlled zones of chaos, forcing fleets to scatter or collide. The starship, once a derelict ignored by the galaxy, now moved as a single entity with a human mind guiding it. Hours passed. Alien fleets tried every tactic, but humans adapted faster. Each attempt was countered with ingenuity, not just brute force. One by one, the alien ships either withdrew, surrendered, or were immobilized in precise gravitational traps. Alex didn't need to destroy them. He had proven humans could control the battlefield with superior intelligence. As the chaos settled, the remnants of the fleets drifted in awe and fear. The galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary. A single human had taken control of a starship that could have destroyed them all, and had done so without unnecessary carnage. Alex allowed himself a moment of reflection. The starship's superweapon, once dormant, hummed steadily, responding to his control. It was no longer just a relic. It was a symbol. The galaxy could see it now. Humans were clever, resourceful, and unstoppable when underestimated. He set the ship on a slow course through the unclaimed sectors of the galaxy. There were no more immediate threats, at least for now. But the message had been sent. Humans were no longer invisible. The galaxy had to pay attention. As he piloted the vessel, he thought about the civilizations he had just faced. They had dismissed humans for centuries, believing themselves superior in technology, numbers, and strategy. And yet, one human mechanic had turned a forgotten warship into the most effective weapon they had ever encountered. "It's not just about strength," he said quietly. "It's about thinking differently. It's about adapting, creating, surviving when no one else believes you can." In the following weeks, reports spread. Across star systems, messages circulated of the human who had awakened the derelict superweapon, outsmarted entire fleets, and demonstrated control no alien civilization had predicted. Humans long underestimated were finally acknowledged as a unique force in the galaxy. Alex continued his work aboard the ship, exploring, upgrading, and preparing for whatever challenges lay ahead. He repaired systems that even alien engineers would have considered irreparable. He experimented with the superweapon, discovering new ways to manipulate gravity, energy, and space itself. The starship had become an extension of his mind and hands, a perfect combination of human ingenuity and alien technology. And yet, he remained humble. The galaxy was vast. There were empires he had not yet met, fleets he had not yet tested against, and mysteries within the ship itself he had barely scratched. Humans were still small in number, but in cleverness, adaptability, and creativity there were none who could match them. The final proof came when Alex encountered a coalition of alien scientists who had been sent to analyze the starship. They came expecting to find a broken relic, something to study and perhaps claim as salvage. Instead, they found a ship alive, controlled by a human mind, its systems enhanced and adapted in ways they could not comprehend. They were awed. They were cautious. And they were terrified. Alex greeted them simply. "This ship is mine, but the galaxy can learn from it if it chooses." The aliens, humbled and impressed, could only nod. Humans had shown that imagination, courage, and ingenuity were as powerful as fleets and empires. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Never underestimate humanity. As Alex set the starship on patrol through unexplored sectors, he knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy would remember this human mechanic, and the starship he had revived. A single human had changed the balance of power, not with sheer firepower, but with intelligence, adaptability, and daring. And somewhere across the void, the stars seemed to shine just a little brighter, as if acknowledging that humans, at last, had taken their rightful place among the galaxy's great powers. Alex leaned back, hands on the console, watching the stars streak by. "Humanity," he said softly, "is not to be ignored." The starship hummed in agreement, alive, vigilant, and ready for whatever the galaxy might throw at it next. Humanity had awakened a force the universe could not ignore, and it all began with one mechanic, one mind, and one derelict starship.